Hey guys, welcome to the Notorious.tv. This is where I cover stories that are scandalous, eccentric, and over the top. All eyes are on Texas as lawmakers attend a special session where hemp legislation is a hot topic. So let's talk about it. Saying we're on the edge of our seats is an understatement. Everyone is waiting to see where lawmakers will land when it comes to regulating hemp in the Lone Star State. Personally, I'm nervous about the special session because, let's face it, we saw the lawmakers' handiwork regarding this issue during the regular session. If you didn't know, THC vapes are already banned, and that law will take effect on September 1st. We also saw House Bill 28 gain a lot of ground during the session, and that bill would have banned all hemp products with the exception of beverages. Now, we're only a few days into the special session, and there's already a whole lot of fuckery taking place. Senator Charles Perry has officially resuscitated Senate Bill 3, a horrendous piece of legislation that would ban all cannabinoids in Texas aside from CBD and CBG. Only this time around, SB 3 is called Senate Bill 5. But wait a minute, aren't these the exact overreaching regulations that Governor Greg Abbott just vetoed? What the heck is going on? Are Texans being bamboozled? It sure feels like it. The Houston Chronicle reports that Greg Abbott now supports a THC ban. I mean, what changed? Did Greg Abbott get brainwashed by Texas Pictures documentary's slanted CIP series? I made a video about that, which I'll link above. And let's actually take a look at this article from July 22nd and dissect it a little. Governor Greg Abbott said Tuesday that he supports banning intoxicating hemp products, appearing to walk back his calls last month for lawmakers to regulate the state's burgeoning THC industry like it does for alcohol. In interviews with media outlets, Abbott said he wants to keep non-intoxicating products available but ban those that produce a high. The governor said he now wants a 3% THC cap on any hemp-based products, or 3 milligrams for every gram of product. The only hemp product that's going to be out there is non-intoxicating hemp, which is below 3 milligrams of THC. Abbott told Impact News. The state already has a 0.3% limit on Delta 9 THC concentration in hemp products. Delta 8 and other synthetically derived strains are not currently subject to any threshold, meaning they can more easily be sold in quantities that produce a high. Abbott said Tuesday that he wants to ban those synthetically derived THC strains entirely, including Delta 8. Delta 9 products would only be available to adults over age 21, he said. Okay. So Delta 9 can also be made synthetically. You can convert CBD into Delta 9 in a lab. So are they taking that into consideration? We're going to be protecting the lives of those who are under the age of 21, and we're going to protect the liberty of those who are 21 and older, Abbott said in an interview with Hearst newspapers. It's like, I don't even think Greg Abbott knows what he's talking about. I really don't. In my recent video where I react to Texas Governor Greg Abbott's veto of SB 3, I touched on how Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick was fighting so dirty to get the bill passed. He even threatened to halt any bill from moving forward, including teacher pay raises, until the passage of SB 3 was realized. Now, after Greg Abbott vetoed it, many lawmakers are coming out and saying that they were manipulated into voting for the bill to prevent stalling other important legislation. So, since SB 5 is likely to clear the Senate and head to the House, lawmakers who voted for SB 3 have a huge opportunity to right their wrong. The one thing that gives me hope that lawmakers will steer clear of legislation that resembles a nanny state is the apparent fear and regret many of them showed following Greg Abbott's veto. The Houston Chronicle published an interactive map showing how each rep voted, and a lot of those who voted in favor of the ban took to social media to seek forgiveness from constituents. Representative Jay Dean posted, "To be perfectly honest, I'm very glad Governor Abbott vetoed SB 3. Many legislators, including myself, were confident that he would do so, and I thank him for it. When we voted for SB 3, we were running out of time in the legislative session and had many other priority bills we were trying to get through the Senate, such as teacher pay raises, public school financing, and my bill to protect East Texas water rights from the Metroplex. Many of us agreed to advance Senate Bill 3 to allow these other bills to to also move forward in the Senate. Let me be perfectly clear, though. I do support regulating the products. We saw way too many products packaged to look like candy that were clearly being marketed to children. That's unacceptable and irresponsible. We would not tolerate from the alcohol industry, and we shouldn't here either. Regulation is acceptable. Prohibition is not. And that's very interesting because in my previous video, which I'll link above, we see many examples of the alcohol industry using packaging that a reasonable person would see as targeting children. He replied to somebody saying, "Not have to agree with my tactics, but I not only made sure our teachers and schools were funded and our water protected, but I also trusted that the governor would do the right thing. I constantly kept my eye on the ball to protect HD7. I have no problem taking the heat for my decisions because I was confident in what I had to do to properly serve my district. Politics is a lot like chess. You have to constantly be thinking 3 moves ahead. That's what I successfully did, and HD7 is better off today for it." Then we have State Rep Brooks Landgraf. He posted, "Governor Abbott has just vetoed SB3, the bill that would have banned many THC products across Texas." No, Brooks, actually, it would have banned all THC products across Texas. But anyways, somebody commented saying, "Good political move for Governor Abbott. Dan Patrick is out of control, and his response to the governor's veto will not get him reelected. Also, I'm curious to know why you voted for SB3, State Representative Brooks Landgraf. Do you still support it, or have you had a change of heart after listening to the vast response from your constituents?" He replied, "SB3 was an imperfect bill at every stage of the legislative process. I voted for it, but I never was in love with the bill. I don't really have strong opinions about adults in Texas using THC products, especially if they derive benefits from it. However, because THC products are now being sold in Texas only due to a loophole in an industrial hemp law, there are no age restrictions on THC products." Okay, I'm going to have to jump in right here because hemp in Texas is not a loophole. It was not created from a loophole. I made a whole video about this that I will link above here. And also, the lawmakers could have passed age gating laws for many legislative sessions that went by without them touching the issue. So really, the fact that there are no age gating laws is on lawmakers, if anything, but most of the industry self-regulates and does not sell to minors whatsoever. He goes on to say, "Most of the people I represent believe that children should not have access to THC products." Duh. And I agree. SB3 did address that, which is why I voted for it, but I'm the first to admit that the bill went too far in other respects. Unfortunately, I only had 2 options, yes or no. Either option was bad, but I voted yes because it was the only available mechanism to keep THC products away from kids. I expect my constituents who expected me to vote against SB3 to hold me accountable. I always knew that there would be opposition to my vote regardless of how I voted. Even though it wasn't my intention, I've upset some people, and I acknowledge that. As I've mentioned before, I'm perfectly fine with the governor vetoing SB3. The THC issue will now be addressed in a special session of the legislature next month. From my perspective, I've learned from several mistakes and also have a much clearer picture of where my constituents are on the issue. I don't intend to vote for a full ban if another one is proposed by the lieutenant governor in the Senate. The lieutenant governor, for whatever reason, has made this a priority issue. I don't share his enthusiasm for banning THC products for adults or for closing down mom and pop businesses. Hopefully this explains where I am on the issue. If you have any other questions, please let me know. And look at Representative Wes Verdell. He took more of a passive-aggressive approach with his Facebook post. He shared a meme with a circle of Spider-Man characters that each has the word primary on top of it. And when he shared the post, he added a "preach, brother." And I have no idea what this meme is trying to imply, so thank goodness Representative Verdell left a long-winded comment under the post to explain. He said, "In case someone misunderstood this post, which appears possible, the meme was referencing when a conservative legislator makes one vote that someone doesn't like. If you have an elected rep who often votes against your values, it would make complete sense why you would want to see them primaried. Something that has become very obvious is some folks would rather point guns at their own team and burn down their world if someone doesn't vote 100% in line with their values. That is a terrible strategy. I watched it backfire in 2 communities that took back control of their governments and they started fighting with each other. They quickly lost everything they had gained. Hopefully lessons were learned. And I can tell you that some onlookers did not appreciate this post. One guy said, "More liberty, less government," says the guy who voted for sending public school funds to private for-profit schools, voted to ban and criminalize hemp, Class A misdemeanor for possession up to 1 year in jail for products legally sold right now in half of the U.S. Another commenter said, "Yes, and the lessons will be veterans and farmers will vote you out next year with Dan Patrick. You can't vote to put all of us in jail and destroy our businesses and think that we would sit back and take it. We don't have a choice. We have to get you all voted out or we won't have a Texas anymore. And you may have played a bigger role with Dan Patrick turning the state blue, but you will be just like crabby Dan Patrick. You will just say, 'Shut up, don't be stupid, it's not my fault. Everyone is voting against us now, even though I voted to throw most veterans, a lot of farmers, and 67% of Texans in jail with harsher penalties for hemp than marijuana. You would have to have 50 pounds of marijuana to get the same penalty as a salve with 0.3% THC, 2 to 10 years in prison. Terrible bill, even worse legislature.'" That was hard to read with no punctuation, but I think we get the gist. And then Wes Verdell chimes in, "Lessons." And it goes on. Someone said, "You voted to criminalize veterans who possess hemp products that don't come from the exorbitantly expensive teacup program most people cannot afford. Possession charges can lead to veterans no longer being allowed gun rights. You are getting primaried for many solid reasons." We have another voucher, property tax, school funding, hemp. Felt like I was let down on everything important to me this session. Everything I was for was voted out. Everything I was against was passed. Nothing felt conservative by the conservatives and honestly felt seen by the left. And then someone said, "You're a disgusting fuck who voted to keep child marriage legal in Texas. If those are your values, the FBI needs to examine your hard drive immediately." Wow, that's a whole topic for another day, and I really do want to make a video about the issue of child marriage in Texas, so if that's something that you would like to see, please let me know in the comments. And I also took some screenshots I found on Instagram of people reacting to the passage of SB 3, and it's really not looking so good for the reps right now. One person said, "Nope, can't let them backtrack and act like they had no choice. If you didn't have the courage to stand up for Texans, then you shouldn't be an elected official." He's openly admitting that he wasn't principled enough to do his job as he knew he should. No one would keep an employee on staff that acted in such a way, and we need to make that clear to whoever replaces him as well. Do not let them off the hook. We need to keep the list of SB 3 voters and remind everyone at the midterms. This person said, "Simply voting to ban THC because you want to get to other things on the agenda is trash, and that is a horrible way to show that you are not capable of doing your job. Stop playing with Texans and take your job more seriously. We see you and we will be voting accordingly." Someone said, "Now, after the veto, these politicians realize, hey, we have really pissed off our voters and we're screwed. Now it's time for all their damage control BS. SB 3 will never be forgotten at the polls on election day." Even though a lot of Texans are pissed at their reps right now, industry insiders say the best approach at this point is to give grace to lawmakers who helped pass SB 3.
I think, there's people are keeping tallies on who voted for what. I think we should be open for truth and reconciliation. It takes bravery for some of these House members to say, Lieutenant Governor Patrick forced this on us. If you're a House rep in a district where the school ISD is the biggest employer, and they're going to give everyone a $5,000 raise for you to vote for the ban, I mean, you really prepared to go back to your district and say, hey, I voted no to get every teacher a raise to save hemp-derived THC? They were put in a really bad position. Mm-hmm. I'm open to giving them all one more chance. X/Twitter has been huge, holding these folks accountable. They're all active there. So my vote is to give them one more chance, truth and reconciliation, but that comes July 21st. And it's going to be very clear cut who got the memo, who didn't, because we want reasonable regulations. We don't want a ban. The Senate's still pushing for a ban. He said that.
At an SB 3 veto party at Lucyland in New Braunfels, Heather Fazio, director of the Texas Cannabis Policy Center, encouraged Texans to continue representative outreach heading into the special session.
I encourage you to get engaged with your legislator. Many of them will have supported the ban. Please take a moment to set that to the side if they're willing to engage with you. We have to make room for these lawmakers who voted wrong the first time around to come to the right side of this and vote correctly during the special session. We have to make space to inform them, to educate them, and to bring them on to the side of freedom when it comes to cannabis and THC in Texas.
So there's still time to call your lawmakers and let your voice be heard. The fight is not over, and we need the same kind of enthusiasm from Texans that got this bill vetoed in the first place. So do we give lawmakers a pass for voting for SB 3, or do we hold them accountable when they're up for re-election, assuming that they vote against its doppelganger bill, SB 5? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. Personally, I think I could forgive lawmakers for voting for SB 3, considering that they were being strong-armed by Dan Patrick. However, what I don't think that we can ever overlook is a lawmaker's unwillingness to learn about cannabis. Sensible regulation should not be this hard, and I believe it comes down to the fact that lawmakers do not understand the basics of the plant, and it seems many of them are not rushing to educate themselves either. Well, except for maybe Representative Pat Curry, who took the time to visit a local smoke shop in Waco even after voting for SB 3.
How you doing, sir? Hi, guys.
Coming into today's visit, Representative Pat Curry says frankly he didn't know much about the THC business in Texas.
I'm still no expert on it, but the only way you're going to be effective as a legislator is to go learn as much as you can about it.
Which is what he did today, asking local dispensary owner Zach Metz all kinds of questions, from where their products come from, how they are tested, to what the current regulations are.
So what does 0.3% by weight mean to you?
So whenever you're reading a COA, or a certificate of analysis, you're going to be looking for delta 9 THC, and on that dry weight basis of a percentage, you want it under or at 0.3%. That is what we're regulated on.
Metz says he was excited to meet Curry, getting the opportunity to answer the representative's questions and ask his own questions.
I think we were both able to get a clear understanding on just an educational basis on how we're regulated, what we do as a shop, kind of talk with them on the upcoming legislative regulations coming up in the special session and things of that nature.
After their discussion, Representative Curry says he now has a better understanding of what lawmakers need to figure out in the upcoming special session.
The whole thing comes down to what are the right regulations and how do you do it and not kill an industry while you still can protect the rights of adults and protect Texas business and do the right thing.
Sharing that it won't be easy, but that he feels more confident after seeing a dispensary business like the Gas Shack.
Representatives like Pat Curry are definitely worthy of forgiveness, in my opinion, because at least it's obvious that he's trying. Our lawmakers need to learn from his example and educate themselves about cannabinoids, the endocannabinoid system that all mammals have, the difference between plant-derived and synthetic products, the difference between a true synthetic cannabinoid and a synthetically converted isomer, how synthetics and synthetic isomers are made, the difference between full spectrum products and isolates, and even the entourage effect and how it impacts users. These are all things that lawmakers should know before passing legislation. And furthermore, a huge piece that's missing from this conversation is the subject of home grows. Texans should be allowed to grow a certain number of plants for personal use. This would eliminate a lot of safety concerns surrounding tainted products while still allowing access to those who want cannabis. Why isn't this even being discussed as an option? I haven't heard this come up one time. That's all for now, but be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I would sure appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching.